Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Dynamics Corner, the podcast where we dive deep into all things Microsoft Dynamics. Whether you're a seasoned expert or just starting your journey into the world of Dynamics 365, this is your place to gain insights, learn new tricks, and the possibilities of Copilot AI in your life and business. I'm your co-host, Kris.
And this is Brad. This episode was recorded on July 10th, 2024. Kris. If I had a dime for every time I heard the word Copilot, I would be retired.
Yeah, and right? We would just be doing this podcast for the rest of our lives.
My kids, which would be what? Great-grandchildren could probably live off of that. This world of AI is mystifying, and each time we talk to somebody about it, it becomes a little more demystified for me. So I have to keep having these conversations. Today, we had a great conversation with Kamil Karbowiak from Data Courage.
Good afternoon, Kamil.
Hi, good afternoon, Kris. Good afternoon, Brad.
Good afternoon, Kamil. How are you doing? It's nice to talk with you again.
It's very, very nice to talk to you guys. How's the weathers and everything else in wherever you are?
It's hot.
Hot everywhere.
It's hot. Yeah.
It's hot everywhere. Over here we're baking. How is it over there for you?
Same here. It's in Celsius it's 35 degrees today.
That's
quite
hot.
unusual.
Yeah, it seems like it's hot everywhere. Everyone's cooking, and everybody has a different interpretation of hot. But it seems like everybody's up in the heat. You've been running around, I see. So I appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. I've been wanting to catch up with you for a long time about a topic that we started to see a lot more traction on at Directions North America back in April. And since then, it seems like it's taking over the world. And that is AI, Copilot, and anything else related to that. It seems like, at Directions or if we go back to then or even in between, it's almost difficult to go a day, hour, or maybe even a half hour without hearing some mention of the word Copilot and AI.
And everyone is getting a little bit tired of it.
I'm getting a little tired of it too, and I'm getting tired of it for a number of reasons. But to try to get some clarification on this whole thing, I was wondering if you could talk with us a little bit about, I know it's in your space and what you do within your realm of work and the services that you offer, is hopefully shed some light and talk with us about some of the confusion around AI, Copilot, and what everybody thinks or what's considered overpromising for AI. And what we can do. So before we get into that, can you tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so Data Courage, Kamil Karbowiak. I'm the managing director of a company that is based in, headquartered in Poland, but we have offices and employees in different areas of the world, including US. And we focus on data analytics for the in very wide space, including Fabric, including everything that is data warehousing, and trying to get Power BI in the hands of people at various organizations, from the smaller to the ones that are in 17 or 20 countries, and trying to bring that up to speed for them. And AI has been with us as we've met. I think it was about 5, 7, 6 years ago, something like that, at the first conference when Copilot was not existent yet, and AI was taking shape. It was more machine learning at the time, and I think we've got a different, I would say, reiteration of that with generative AI now, adding another piece of complexity, or actually something that was supposed to in a natural language answer any question that we might have around anything that happens around our data that we collect in our companies. Yeah, and I think that that is what we're also doing now. We're helping also partners with arranging their story around AI. We're helping Business Central partners to deliver some things with things such as Copilot Studio, for example. So we do that as well, and we have our own products as well that we ship to the app stores that are integrating directly with Business Central. So that is really what we do at Data Courage.
Oh, great. Great. Thank you for that. You guys are doing a lot of great things. I see what you're doing, and also enjoyed the conversation we have and learning a little bit more about AI. Basically put, in your terms, what is artificial intelligence, and is it really intelligent?
Yeah, complicated question. So
It
it is
is.
a very complicated question, and then you need to unravel those different there's so much, as you mentioned, there's so much confusion around it, and what is being put in front of us in terms of what Copilot offers, what it's going to offer, and what people thought it will offer. Yeah, and that is really the confusion around it. For me, artificial intelligence would be something that initially would when we put it into a system or into an environment, it would be able to answer all these questions that we have around it. This is where I would like it to finally be, where no matter what task you have for it, it will actually assist you. And I think we're not there yet. Yeah? And that's where the confusion came with a lot of the marketing that is coming from different channels, from different companies, that it would be able to do that, or it will be able to do that to an extent. People think when they see certain videos or certain functionalities, they see that, oh, it can help me with so much more that is on that video. Yeah, and I wasn't able to do that before. And what we're seeing and experiencing is that it's not there yet in many of those spaces. So if you think of the revelation of generative AI, there are four major aspects that generative AI is able to help us with. One of them is content generation, as we know that. There is a content summarization as well. And there is also things like question and answer. An incarnation of that would be Copilot Chat, for example. And then there is the other thing that is also used, and I think this is the broadest subject that has been picked up on by a lot of the partners who are kind of trying to get into this journey, is the automation. Yeah, so trying to automate certain tasks, and these tasks that people want to accomplish, they can be assisted, AI assisted. Yeah, but still, it's a domain specific. It might be generic, such as things like bank reconciliation. But if you think about bank reconciliation aspect, it is a specific concept. It's around a specific functionality, and it allows us. Generative AI is going to enable us with specific prompting to accomplish certain things and put some things into Business Central, into tables, and then have a human accept it or reject it, or somehow correct it before posting. So it saves a lot of time, and we cannot take it from the Copilot functionality that it actually saves a lot of time. Even things like the aspects of Teams, or trying to get notes from the meetings. This really Teams and Copilot for Teams, for example, is accomplishing really well. There are obviously other solutions to it which has different approach to that subject. But that's really the four domains where where we think that that generative AI in our space, in our business central space, I would say, it would help us. And of course, if you think about coding and things like that, that allows it to do that as well. Where the problem is, and I've heard it many times over the conversations we had, the directions with different people at different Microsoft sessions as well. Is it one copilot or is it many copilots? And we know, right? We know that there are many of them, but this is just one of the aspects. It's and really the limitation of how this works now is that they do not communicate together yet. Yeah. So these copilots, one copilot cannot communicate with another one, pass some results to another one, and of course, this is the journey that we're going through now. So one of the key takeaways, I guess, from this conversation, but also from the directions, is that there are many copilots and they're specific to different tasks, rather than just one copilot for everything.
That's what I wanted to ask. I have a lot of questions for you based on what you had just mentioned, and hopefully I can, I need Copilot to help me, a Copilot for my brain to help me go back and answer all these questions, or ask all these questions. You said there are many Copilots. What is the difference between these Copilots? Is it the data? I guess, is that even the appropriate term? The data that they work with? Is it the function that they perform? Or is it something else? Like, what is again, it's like people saying, I have a car or a vehicle,
Mm-hmm.
right? You have many different types of vehicles. I can differentiate between a sedan, truck, tractor, semi-tractor. There's a number of different things within there. When dealing with a Copilot, what differentiates them from each other?
So we need to go back, answering this question, I think we need to go back to the whole large language model aspect. And when you think about that, is that you have in front of you, when you're using, I don't know, ChatGPT or whatever, you're using the whole knowledge that it aggregated. And then you have to put it into a direction and give it more context of what you want to do and achieve with it. And the same goes with those different copilots. So if you have a copilot that helps you with given text generation, marketing text generation, or a copilot that helps you with bank reconciliation, you're giving it a different context and giving it different prompts, right? So you need to tailor it to what you want it to do. It will answer questions in different ways when the domain changes. Yeah. And that is really what kind of, in the human nature, we would say we would answer the same question differently to, a 5-year-old and to someone who has a PhD, if we have that knowledge, right? To talk at that level. So that's why these copilots or these agents or these assistants, they need to be taught, or I would say their broad knowledge has to be kind of tailored to that specific task that we wanted to accomplish. And that's why we had this, at the first we had this confusion. And I think that we're on the road of explaining it better, that we can actually plug it into different functionalities and start doing that. And then there's obviously the stuff that I've heard also from Microsoft events at directions as well. One of the sessions with Evgeny Korovin, they were saying about they were putting things out there as in they will be introducing the connected copilots as well. So something that will perform a certain action, and then that, it's just like a function. Yeah, if you think about it, it's a function that has certain tasks, it completes it, and then it passes the parameters to a different one that is tailored to do something else. Yeah. And we're doing this as well in one of our apps, for example, where we're passing certain things or certain things that one AI element is doing for us, and then it passes it on to a different element and different model that has been pre-trained and fine-tuned to perform a different task. And then with the iterations of that, you have a specific functionality that you can accomplish and work with, and work with the results of it.
I hear these terms, and I do want to jump into more of some of the functionality that you can use with Business Central, but I hear terms in the conversation, which I'll mention in a minute, but I do appreciate the AI could be used, or Copilot could be used for, as you had mentioned, content generation or idea generation, which is helpful. It could do summarization of stuff, right? And we can talk about the stuff. And then also you can ask it for questions, get answers. You had just also mentioned that you can train it, right? I hear this word train almost like I'm teaching or training a person to do a job, right? So again, now we go into some of the misconceptions and confusion, and this might even take it a little bit deep, it might put us down another tangent. What is it to train AI?
I wouldn't say that you would train a new model for yourself, and I wouldn't want. I think we don't want to go that path. At the level of, and I'm limiting ourselves because there are some companies that have started doing and training their own models, but it takes a lot of CPU power or GPU power to do that. What we're doing is we are using a trained model, and then we're using the pre-prompting techniques. So kind of something that also Microsoft really puts on their slides, as well as grounding. Yeah, so something that tells you how you should behave now. Well, how do you in which domain we are now, and what domain do we now want to focus, and what we want your answers when it's specific to that specific domain. Yeah. So when we're in finance, we're going to be talking about finance. When it's finance for I don't know, an NGO, or whether it's a finance for a company that sells electricals equipment, the answers should be tailored for that. So we're giving it more context. So we are not training the model; we are just adding the concept to train it based on data that we would need to pretty much put a machinery and start building it, start building the LLM for a specific purpose. And I don't think that we should be I don't know. It's a concept for these large companies that needs to solve specific.
So is training it in essence limiting? I'm trying to simplify this for my knowledge and my limited knowledge of AI. I know how to ask questions to Copilot and get some ideas from it and create pictures and stuff. But is training in essence limiting the data that it reads, I guess you could say, or loads or associates or links or puts together to limit what it can do? Or is training it like teaching it a new set of functions? Whereas if I have a picture, for example, and say, AI, this is a banana. Now going forward, it can see that picture and it knows it's a banana. Or is it that it takes up all the data in the world of all the fruits and vegetables, and it can see that someone already identified it as a banana, and now it puts it in there, and I can say, what is this? And it will already know it's a banana.
Yeah. So training is that. Yeah. Training is
not machine learning.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, in that concept, it's a different concept. Yeah, exactly. But you know that now LLMs are multimodal, so they also use the algorithms that's even more complex, because it's it can now the multimodal. The term of multimodal is that you can show it I don't know, some picture. It's going to generate a text. From the text, it's going to generate a picture or a video or something else. Yeah, from a picture, it's going to generate a video. We've seen.
I've seen that.
Really great. Yes, you've seen Sora. You've seen probably some other models that are out there, and this is amazing how this is being done. And of course, the problems with hands and so on and so forth. So yes, we definitely have to probably go down a certain path in this conversation so that we are not getting lost in all of those concepts. So yes, training a data with a specific data set, with training an LLM is, when you have a wide, a database of different concepts, and then the LLM was trained with the vector database to identify which word is with proximity to another word. And I'm not saying it for no purpose. I'm saying it because I think that the next element that people have a misconception of, and I think that we also discussed it with a lot of people, why it doesn't handle data as it should, right? So why it doesn't handle the numerical as it should, right? Why is it hallucinating all the time? It can give you different answers to a very simple questions as multiplication, variances. It's not going to calculate it correctly, and why? And the reason is that it's how would you identify that one is greater than two? You need to somehow train a different type of model to be able to understand that. For the language model, it really is a very difficult concept to apprehend when you have a number somewhere. Yeah, how do
I
you,
understand
is
what
it
you're
is it a
saying.
small or is it a
We
big
would need
number?
a math
Whatever.
model basically to
Correct.
explain how the numbers are related. I
Yeah.
did learn about a vector and what it
Mhm.
is and how it's there in a previous episode. It took me
Mhm.
a long time to wrap my head around that whole process, by the way.
Mhm.
So now I
Mhm.
understand you use hallucination. I understand why it hallucinates now, because a language model references information based on how it relates in space, not necessarily the
Correct.
function or use of it. See, I'm
Correct.
picking this up from what you're saying.
Yeah.
And tell me if I'm
Yeah,
wrong.
that's exactly right.
And then if we wanted to use that information, such as math, we would need to teach it differently, that they're not using these numbers as they relate. We're using them as a function. Man, I'm learning so much with these conversations.
It's conversational at the moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
See, but
Yes, exactly.
that is a big thing with this. And as I have conversations, and it's almost like with anything new, and the negative bias that we have as humans is we come out and say, it did this wrong. It did this wrong. And look, I can confuse it. Or look, I can have it go this way. When the reality is, as I say over and over again, it's just a tool that you use. So if you're using it for content generation, as you mentioned, it may give you an idea, and then you can use your content in your brain to expand on that idea to create content. If you ask it questions, it could give you some ideas. You still should use it just as a tool with the answers and validate it. It will make you become, I say, more efficient, because it will give you ideas faster than if you had to do it on your own. Just like a carpenter with a hammer, it's a tool. The hammer's not going to do anything on its own. It's all a matter of how you use it, right? See, I'm getting there.
Correct.
Yeah, it's going to give you a
definitely.
baseline. It's basically that's where it's helpful, giving you a baseline, and then you take that information from a conversational standpoint, and then the creativity is still be coming from you, because you would still have to figure out how would you use the result that AI gives you.
So with that, let's take it back now within the space of Business Central and data, and how a business, a partner, or someone can use AI within their application. Whether it be a partner creating an application or an extension for Business Central that utilizes AI, or whether it's the AI Copilot stuff that Microsoft has added to Business Central and is planning to add to Business Central. And then this crazy thing, Copilot Studio now, which again, it used to have another name. Everything seems to have a different name. And I'm just going to load this all on there because it's on my mind. Also, one of the concerns that I hear, and I have as well, with AI in a business space, not necessarily just Business Central, it's AI in a business space, is the data. So one, we have to train it to process our data, or use our data, understand our data, which in an ERP system can be different because they have different modifications, but also I may have access to the entire system for data, such as finance. Kris could work in another office in the company, and he does not have access to finance data. He only has access to inventory. How can we ensure that if Kris uses the AI tool to ask questions, he doesn't get the finance data that I have access to? Whereas if I ask a question, I get all-encompassing item, finance, and such.
So we need to break it down a little bit, and I don't know. I'll start with the last one because I think it's the concept that is also on the mind of many, and we already. I think with one of the apps that all of the apps actually, with Business Central, it's quite easy, right? So you are not giving the access, just like you don't give access to the chart of accounts. You are not giving the access to the functionality and the way that Copilot works. Is I think it's a I don't know how to say that, but I think this is a missing element. Yeah, with all due respect for Copilot and Microsoft, it's an element that is missing. Is that you should be able to pick and choose where you would want your Copilot to actually show up on your screen and have specific permissions for that person or attached to it. So the way we have approached it with the financial intelligence or any other app that we gave, it is based on customers on the end user permission. So if the user has access to the chart of accounts, he's going to be able to ask questions and he's going to be able to use the AI financial intelligence rather than having a Copilot somewhere where it's a plugged in top of Business Central and you just start and chat about different things. And this is where I think that this has to change so that people know that when they're enabling Copilot for finance or Copilot for bank reconciliation or any other thing, that will be attached to a specific user with the permissions to use that area. Yeah, and I think that this is something to be that should be addressed because I know where this is coming from. You don't want a person from, for example, French area, for example, for French subsidiary, to have access to the German database or knowledge base. This has to be separated. Yeah. And if you ask a question, you need to have permissions to only ask questions about your P&L data that is in your in this company that you have access to. So
yes, and that's where I see a big challenge because someone could have access to both, so they want to be able to analyze across both. And then as you're building this vector of data, or we're teaching the system, AI, whatever you'd like to call it, how to analyze or process this data within its model for processing data. See, I'm trying to learn. How does it know to put up the walls between people without changing the efficiency? Because it's to me, it would be a filtered data set for a person if they don't have permission at some sort of dimension. And then that dimension needs to be factored into the processing to eliminate a chunk of data, but it could be multidimensional.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's a big challenge, and I don't, I think somewhat you just assume, or you just have to not try to understand it. But these are just some of the questions or concerns that I've heard about Copilot. Yes, it's great to create pictures, great to analyze information on the web, but now we want to transfer it to be a practical business solution, not executive wide, but business wide to gain the efficiencies.
Mm-hmm. So again, coming back to some of the customers that we have on financial intelligence, and we were actually not that we were challenged by these questions, but people were just asking, how it's going to behave. And the way we have it now, we don't have let's say the consolidated version is ahead of us, so we're not yet doing the consolidation. But in terms of dimensions and whatever the user has access to, this is what or a specific user can actually use within the analysis, right? So he's not going to be able to compare it with a different division or I don't know, something else that is captured as dimension if he doesn't have access to it. Yes, there's a lot of work to do that. Yes, it will not give you those answers on that level because you don't have access and permissions to do that. But on the level of the user that has access to all of these things, then it will pass on much more data that is relevant to answer a specific question about that data set. Yeah. So it starts with the data set, then you give it some information, some prompting, and then you're returning it based on the data set that you were given. Yeah. And how you're doing it in the background, and how you prevent it from hallucinating is another aspect. But to have the permissions set and to control this, we were seeing that that this is and Business Central actually helps with the permissions to send the data, and then there's another aspect of it. So people were asking, "Oh, are you reading our prompts?" Right? So is Microsoft reading our prompts? Is Microsoft knowing what's going out and in? Given that everything is in cloud, why would you read the prompts, and why would you make a deal out of it? And just the AI concept brings those questions. There people were very, let's say, they didn't want to go to cloud for the same reason why they don't want to go to AI now, because it's the privacy, right? And somebody reads what we're asking. And what Microsoft has announced several times is that they do not see any of that, yeah, because it passes through OpenAI and goes through that. And so that's the area of security. And I think besides the fact that there are terms and conditions that you accept with the Copilot and whatever, I don't know if there's any way to check whether or not somebody is reading that. But we have already customers that are using our tools in production, and they just want to have that ability to ask these questions to those numbers, and I think that's more valuable. Yes, there is it's a very very difficult aspect to unravel without the people that would say from the Microsoft side, yes, we know, and we don't do that. We don't. We don't, because that's the thing.
I think that they call responsible AI. It's well
Correct.
written by them. I think it's been out for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's what four rules or policies: fairness, reliability, and safety, privacy and security, which covers that, and then inclusiveness is their goal.
Exactly. And then there's other aspects, because if you know, I think it was today or the day before that the Copilot chat will not be available outside of US until October. Then if you read something like that, is it based on some regulations that were put in by, for example, I don't know, European Union on those pieces, or whether it's the technology, what is behind it? That's another thing. But if you cannot trust these kind of big companies for being reliable in terms of your data, then we're not going to get anywhere. Yeah, and
that's true.
And then if you think of deploying your own model, you're going to be maybe, I don't know, 2-3 years time, and you're going to be doing something for yourself. Yes, there are smaller LLMs that you can train and do it yourself, but then there's this whole cost of maintenance, trying to uptrain it with new data and so on and so forth. It takes a lot of time and money to put it out there. Yeah,
that's true. I want to point out too, I said 4, there's actually 6 principles. The 2 missing ones: transparency and accountability.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just not to derail us, but I have a question for you that came into my mind as I was listening to the two of you speak. It's like it's an offshoot, but it jumped into my head. We talked about AI being trained by data. Okay. The data can be informational data within your company that you're collecting, such as transactional data, so that you can have information for your products, finances, sales, and everything like that, and you can teach it to calculate sales. The other area that I see it being widely used for is content creation. And then the AI gets trained based on content. So let's just say it creates a bunch of website data. So somebody may say, okay, teach me about this. There's a lot of content on the internet. It generates an article. Someone publishes something that was created by AI. Now somebody goes and creates content trained by all this information, including the AI. Is there ever a point where it just doesn't know anything anymore? Where because it's AI is learning on AI content, whether it's images, text, and also on the
that is also widely, I would say, discussed subject, because you cannot train when you don't have that respect, that additional knowledge, that knowledge that it could be trained on. Yeah. So if it's going to be training on AI elements, yes, it's a kind of a constant loop. Yeah. And we need to also say that one thing, that it's not, and we need to emphasize this really for copilots, from what we're hearing from Microsoft, whatever is your proprietary data, this doesn't get to be exposed to train the models. It doesn't additionally train the models with that data that you're exposing. It can, just like with the Teams conversations, you will see on the Copilot that it does not store it once you leave it. And once you leave the conversation, you can, if we were doing this on Teams, we would be able to have the conversation with Copilot about our conversation. It would be able to summarize, it would be able to suggest some questions, it would be able to add some ideas around it. But as soon as you close the conversation, it's not going to give you that ability, because it does not store it, and it is not used for training. So I think that this is also for this responsible AI, that it's not being trained on any of the proprietary data. And then there are other programs where you can enroll, and I think Microsoft was actually talking about it as well. I can't remember what was it, but there are some, like when you have an industry expert in a certain area, and you would like to read the answers generated by AI and kind of influence it and say, well, this is wrong, this is not where it should be something else. And this kind of feedback then gets uploaded into the training. Yeah. So the next time you're going to be doing this, but this is separate. This is separate to, and it's done on artificial data, on the data that is generated, and has got nothing to do with the real data that is coming from any of the companies or anything like that. So there are other, and this is the concept that you touched base on just a minute ago, that yes, it would lose, more meaningful aspect of it if you don't train it more or further with it. Yeah. And you need to, it's like those, you need to give it a score, right? So you're giving it, you see in the chat flags about like or dislike or whatever, you like the conversation or you didn't like the conversation. That's where it feeds that into the training. But if you and this is what, another concept that we're putting out there to our customers, is that they will be able to also flag their answers, the answers that are coming from AI on their financials, whether or not it's something that they would like, or maybe they would like to add something else. Yeah. And then you have to have a different separate model that will be trained on that, on those answers. Yeah. So, but these are some of the concepts that we're also working on right now.
It's challenging if you really start to think about all that's involved in this, because for human thought, we just have all this information. We've learned all this information. We pull it out naturally. and we understand what we want to do. But now we're trying to almost replicate how humans store information in their brains and how they recall information, and then use the information that they recall. It's crazy. And I saw recently some of the demonstrations with AI where you can talk to it and it will talk back.
Yeah.
Talk about creating more and more seclusion, because Kris, we can have podcasts with AI and just have conversations, or even I just can have a conversation with myself and I'd never have to leave the house or talk to anybody else.
True, but if you think about it from a different perspective, what I've seen recently from Google, or also from I think OpenAI, is that you have this, when you have an impaired vision and you wanna, and I have that in the family. Yeah, so I'm actually looking into this area very closely because I want to help someone from the family to be able to orientate herself around the house. And it is amazing how this technology can help with just a phone in her hand, and just telling her where the salt is and where the pepper is, and what to put in a jar, and things like that. So if you have that, you don't have to have an implant or anything else. You can use your phone. And she was using also a lot of the technology before, reading the messages or something like that. But now it's another level. Yeah, so it's very very inclusive for the for some of the people that gets kind of impaired vision.
Those types of things, a lot of information about AI is all about the business use, or the functional use of creating pictures or doing this. But hearing a real life practical use, if I understand what you're saying, is where you have AI on your phone, you can take a picture or a video of your countertop, and it knows to identify where the salt is, where the pepper is, just by where it's placed, not by where it should be, so that somebody who has an impairment knows exactly where to go without needing assistance. So it creates a lift. That stuff right there, see, these are the pieces of some of these technologies that I wish had more visibility, because it's not to say that it's not visible in some areas, but on a wider market. And I think it would help promote and give a more understanding to how this technology can be used, other than just creating pictures, but to help people function that may have, like you had mentioned, has a visual impairment or other challenges, to facilitate so they can have more independence and do things, is amazing. And it's just it's helpful, and that's the type of stuff I like to hear about. As far as how this technology is used. I didn't know that technology, that's how that's being used in some places. Very happy to hear that.
I think with recent GPT 4.0, with its whole vision component, it's going to skyrocket us to the next steps, which would lead you to using your smartphone or smart glasses for it to have an interaction with you of like, hey, this is what you could do based on what it's in front of you. Like, here's what you can.
Correct.
Like, for example, someone that, like, I enjoy cooking. Like, if I have all these recipes, instead of me looking, I can have glasses, or I can take a picture and it'll say, hey, you can make all these different things, and this is how you can make it, and this is what you need to do to prepare. That's impressive, because it's right at the tip of your fingertips, without having you to what we used to do, Google things.
Yeah.
It's a different form of Google. So to go back to the business function of this for a moment, and with Business Central, Copilot Studio. How does Copilot Studio fit into this AI Business Central business function ecosystem?
So in many ways, actually, because what Copilot Studio brings is this, or it pulls the level of your, where you need to be, where you need to understand the parts of the stack and technology. It pulls it down, pulls it to where you have someone who understands a little bit of the development and can write prompts and can, like join pieces together and then be able to accomplish a task without writing complex Python code or something like that, and trying to use different components to bring it, let's say, back to the Business Central. So it's this concept of if you thought about Power Apps, low code. So I would say it's a low code AI kind of a thing, which allows more people. It gives more accessibility to it. And then if you combine my last sentences with something that I remember you had a conversation with Vincent. He was talking and describing different types of prompting. This is really where this knowledge will be also useful in order to accomplish certain things with Copilot Studio, and then bring it to the to the end user. Yeah, and I think that this is really where. And I see a lot of excitement in the channel that they can actually do something. Yes, Microsoft does not share their prompts because it's, prompt is proprietary knowledge now. So however you're going to direct your AI, you're going to not train, but just direct it, ground it. That grounding and that task and the way you're going to create those tasks and how generic or how specific they're going to be, this is where your power is going to be, because you're going to be able to accomplish certain tasks much faster in your Business Central implementations. So that's why I think that, when somebody is saying from the stage, AI is going to be everywhere, you need to jump on that train, it's literally because of that. It's because of the fact that if you're going to be using that and you're going to create those functionalities, you will win over the competition, even in the Business Central space. Yeah. Because these things will speed up your implementation process, configuration process, because you can imagine, generating not only the text, but also generating tons of master data components. Yeah, that you can speed this up with Copilot Studio and filling those tables automatically. And even generating demo data or something like that. Yeah. So there's just a use case, Copilot Studio, and off you go with the new functionality. That's really how things. I think it's a really nice step forward for whatever has been brought out to the partners ecosystem. First, I don't know if they finally did it, but I've heard on numerous occasions that there is an instance of Azure OpenAI that you can use within Copilot Studio that will be free of charge. So you're not paying for, and this has to be confirmed because I don't know if it's actually happened, but I remember that there were discussions about doing it, because when you're prompting, when you're changing and adjusting your prompts, you're investing money, right? Because you need to have this workloads going to Azure OpenAI, and something needs to calculate it for you, and bring you the relevant information. And then by tweaking the prompts, you are able to go to this element where this actually fits your purpose. And for that training element, or for that ongoing work that needs to be in the refining of the prompts, partners would not be charged for. But this has to be reconfirmed, because that's what I've heard.
Yeah, it's all too much for me, so I don't even know. I try to keep up with so much. It's tough. It's really challenging to keep up with it. And sometimes you just have to trust it, in a sense. I guess you could say trust, but I don't want to say trust, but verify. Trust with caution, and hopefully we get the benefits and the efficiencies of it without some of the damages that could come with it as well too. I mean, I think as with anything else, it can be exploited once you start.
I have a question really quick. We talked about so many possibilities of what Copilot and OpenAI or ChatGPT can do for you, primarily around gathering information and then summarizing it in a way that, in a natural language way that I can understand and interpret it and then get the result. Have you found maybe the question should be, what is its current limitations?
Yeah, well, data, numerical data is
Okay.
the where it's challenged. But that's why I was delaying this for so long, because I knew I knew that something has happened in this area, and I thought that it's going to be revealed, but probably that's going to be revealed maybe later this year. And I think there's going to be a breakthrough in that space as well. And it's just about how the data is stored, how it's being interpreted, how it's being given certain context. And once you have that, all of that, you can join the LLM forces with numerical, and you're going to be able to do the stuff that usually people ask for. Yeah. So when we have demonstrations of our apps, then it's the question of, can it do this? Can it do that? And then when you have a Copilot at its current stage, it has certain limitations. And I think that these limitations will go away sooner than later. So we're going to have the ability to ask questions as in, what is the, show me all the records where my, receipt date, or, not even that, you're going to be able to say, well, when was I late with my, I don't know, with my shipments or something like that. Yeah. And it's going to be able to answer those questions with data, with charts and things like that. Yeah. So this is where I think that's the current limitation, and that's where people thought that it's going to be able to do that. Yeah? When you're going to put Copilot on top of it, it's going to unravel all of those things, and we're going to be off you go with everything. Yeah.
Yeah, you made a
That's
great point, because I think it confused a lot of people when Copilot came out. Like, to your point, I can ask all the business questions that I may have within Business Central or within my data, and then people realize, well, that's not what was. I mean, that's the limitation, right? Conversation wise. And so you're saying that within maybe a year, it will start to do the functions of crunching data, um, and interpreting that into a natural language where it would make sense for everyday people. Do you see that happening in addition to the tools that's already out? Like, for example, Power BI had that, ask the question, the Q&A. Do you see that being available through there first, or do you see that available in a certain product on the multitude of different copilots?
I think it's going to go into Power BI for sure, naturally. It might go to, well, it's going to definitely go to Project Sophia if it's going to end up in production as well. And I think that Business Central is a natural way and place where this should be put in, because the demand is already there. Right, so the demand from the customers is already there. When we're having those conversations on the product that we have inside of Business Central on from the app source, there are certain questions that we cannot answer, but the questions are there. The questions that they would like to be answered are already there. So they're waiting for this iteration to happen, when they will be finally able to answer these questions with a natural language. Yeah, because they want to have it's the ERP of any sort is there to collect and help you with some operations and everything else. But in the end, you want to be able to ask that question and know what's going on. Yeah, and at the moment, what we need to do is somehow tailor those questions still to answer specific questions. So tailor those answers, tailor the prompts or the data that's coming into those prompts to be able to answer specific questions. Whereas at certain point, and it's going to be sooner than later, it will be able to actually start understanding what's there, right?
Yeah.
That what this data set really means, what it represents, what can I do with it, what kind of insights can I give you on that data set, and collate it with some additional information. And that's where I think that, the customer's already there
Yeah.
with the demand, but the technology is not forcefully there and available in a Copilot window, or chat window.
Yeah, no, I think that's an exciting path that we're going to. I mean, it's really putting the word intelligence into practice when you're talking about business intelligence, right? So you're using it as a, referencing now to your data, specific to your business data, not just information that you can randomly feed into. So, and I think that's very exciting because it removes the human interpretation. I remember early day in my career, you build your data model and you do all your calculation and you have some form of forecast, right? And then I have to interpret that and create stories, behind the data that I've been given, and you do your formulas and say, hey, this is what I think the business should be doing, and that's my interpretation. Now with Copilot, it gives you much more power, where it could also answer questions that we maybe didn't think about, asking. So I think that in itself, in the combination of a natural language, is really going to be a game changer. And so it's going to give a lot of businesses, a leg up, especially small businesses that may not be able to afford, maybe big data or afford an analyst, right? They can just use Copilot to say, hey, what can I do differently to increase my revenue?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
And it's just going to look at all that information. And of course, your knowledge base, maybe all your marketing materials, everything about your business. And it'll just tell you, hey, you should do it this way because here's the data that would support that.
correct.
So super exciting.
It's all too much for me still. It's just going to change. It is. It's changing the way individuals do business, just as the automobile changed, the way people work. And, every few years, something new comes out and just changes the way we work. We just have to learn how to use it as a tool, I think, is the important thing, and truly understand its limitations to level set the expectations of how it can be used in a business application. And even in everyday life, and then also knowing the importance of verifying some of the information that it gives back to you, not just taking and running with it. So it could help give you the efficiencies of presenting the data, but you still would need to analyze and review the data.
One of the wild things that Kamil, you had mentioned about connected copilots and having a copilot speak to another copilot, because it does a different function than this one copilot. What's wild to me, and looking at way ahead, where you can have two ERP system with all the data about your company, and you have a copilot that knows about that, communicate to maybe a vendor or a partner, and to their copilot, just have them talk to each other and say, hey, this is how we can work together and increase our efficiency and profitability, and just have Copilot just basically run the whole thing. And your job is to just make a decision at that point.
Yeah.
That wild.
Run with it. Yeah. I don't know what shape it's gonna take. I can see, there are obstacles when you give insights, whether or
Yes,
not somebody's gonna use it. There has to be a trust. Everyone needs to go back
absolutely.
to numbers. So when something is being revealed to the user, he needs to go back to a lot of different areas to check it before he commits to, put an order. We've seen some chats already that were deployed too prematurely, and some orders happening for, a BMW for $1, right, or something like that. So there's things happening like that when someone knows how to break something, and we know that there are things that can be broken this way. So this is interesting. but maybe let's not move so far away because it's going to frighten the people out. Who's going to be doing all the job?
I think so. I think so too. Kamil, you're doing some great things with AI and data within the space of Business Central and other areas. What are you working on now?
So we are working on some new addition as well and we're going to probably reveal it at Direction Zimia. And I cannot tell you what it is because it's going through the process of approvals and patents and everything else. So, but it should be exciting. Nothing that has yet been in the Business Central. It's not been addressed. So hopefully that's going to be an interesting point. At the moment, we are running with 3 apps on the marketplace on the app stores, customer item and financial intelligence, and we see that it's a new space. It's a new category where you're delivering insights based on data, and I think that's the most difficult aspect about it is that it's not a reporting tool. It's not something that is a BI. It's something that is going ahead and saying to you, well, listen, this is what we're spotting here. What are you going to do about it? Yeah. And then that's it's not about, oh, let me go back to the numbers. Let me just calculate everything. And then we're going to make a decision. It actually tells you certain things and it's going to, wait for the decision, right? So whether or not you're going to,
is it something where you can predict? With one thing with one of the big challenges is forecasting or prediction. A lot of businesses wanted to make decisions based upon trends. There's always some variable factors that need to be accounted for. So having a tool like that would be amazing and a huge time saver, and also help businesses run a little bit more efficiently.
At the moment, exactly. At the moment, if you think of even collating that information about your historical sales and when you're going to spot the difference in trend, when something is, when you're reviewing your reports, when you're reviewing your dashboards, somebody's going to spot it, or you're just going to have it right away inside of Business Central. It's going to tell you that 10 SKUs in your inventory have jumped from one category to another, and you should probably review what to do with them, because it's something that is not been seen before, or it's not following the regular pattern. Yeah, so something like that. So adding machine learning and then demystifying all of that information as well. It's one of the products. Yeah.
No, that is a challenge. It's a challenge because you can analyze the data, and one of the topics that I've mentioned and I think of is with that forecasting type or predictive type model is in fashion they have seasonality, but even on any business, it's what was happening also at the time. Because if you remember COVID, at one point, that's all you could, I heard the word COVID just as often as I hear the word copilot today, years ago. And now I can go weeks without hearing the word. But in that case, a particular company's sales information may be different because of those factors outside. Also, depending upon the type of business you have, if there's some storms or if there are other type of weather-related events, they could impact your sales. So being able to analyze that information with like the external forces along with your internal data information is a dream of mine.
So that aspect we don't cover in the app itself, but we do have the projects where we're doing exactly that. So demand forecasting is one of the aspects that we cover, and then we talk with the business and we unravel what has the impact. What are the other aspects or factors we need to put into the data set to be able to create a model that would help them make those decisions? Yeah. So this is part of that.
So you already have it. My dreams have been answered right here today.
Yeah. But it's not something, and I had this question before after my session. Somebody said, well, can we scale it? Can we do it, like on scale? No, you cannot do it on scale because you need to you need to figure out what are the other factors that are affecting this. And, and it goes down to, regions, seasonality, as you said, weather, and other aspects. And you cannot be always 100% right. Yeah. There's the whole pattern. Yeah.
If I can add something funny to that, because you look at all those different aspects, but I also want to add the emotion component of that, because I'll tell you, you can give them all the data you can and forecast. There's always going to be somebody in the company that says, that's been there for maybe 20 plus years, says, that's not how I feel. You know what I mean? I always have to manipulate the data because I think because of this. That is typically a challenge when you are like, you can have a greatest tool, but the behavior is still the same thing.
Yeah.
It almost like it means nothing.
You can never account for that. Or you can never forget to account for that human behavior factor. And,
Exactly.
the behavioral changes sometimes that are necessary with humans is an aspect of it. Well, Kamil, it's always a pleasure. Thank you for spending the time with us today. Your time is truly valuable. Everybody's time is truly valuable. And I appreciate you taking that time with us, because it truly is the currency of life. Once you spend it, you never get back. And I look forward to talking with you about this more in person. Where will you be? Will you be going to Summit in October? Days of Knowledge in September? You coming over to the States anytime soon?
So yeah. So all of that, all of that. So we're going for sure directions EMEA. We have a meeting at IMCP because we just started a Polish chapter. I'm one of the board members of the Polish chapter of IMCP, and we're definitely going to directions North America and Summit. So
excellent. Well, I look forward to seeing you there. We'll have to have a drink, catch up,
sure.
And don't forget what you forgot
I will
last
not.
time.
The krówki. I will bring it with the whole package.
Yes. I was disappointed. I was all excited.
No. I know. I even had you on my session just because of that.
Yes. That's I just to say.
I'll bring it. Bring it. I hope the
Yes.
customs and the Homeland Security will not, take some for themselves. Because,
I wouldn't be surprised.
You could just send me a box if you want.
Exactly.
Ahead of time.
Exactly.
And then we'll just be square, and I'll bring it with me, and I'll act like I got it from you.
Okay.
Okay. But again, thank you for taking the time to speak with us. If somebody else would like to contact you to learn more about the great apps that you're creating, great services that you're providing with AI within the Business Central world, and see some of the other great things that you're doing, what is the best way for someone to get in contact with you?
So LinkedIn is always a very direct. I'm always on LinkedIn, and also datacourage.com to kind of learn about what we do. And email is always a good option. Yeah. So Kamil at datacourage.com.
Do you have Copilot read your email?
Summarize it.
I do. I do have some summarization tools.
I need to get that. I need to use that.
And also for the meetings. Honestly, like I love the meetings part of it. And it's just a revelation.
You don't have to pay attention as much. No, it's great.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thank you again, and I look forward to talking with you further. Every time I talk with someone about AI, I learn just a little bit more. And hopefully awesome. I'll get it all soon. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Take care, Kamil.
Brad.
All right.
All the
ciao,
best.
Ciao.
Have a good one. Cheers. Bye.
Ciao. Thank you, Kris, for your time for another episode of In the Dynamics Corner Chair. And thank you to our guests for participating.
Thank you, Brad, for your time. It is a wonderful episode of Dynamics Corner Chair. I would also like to thank our guests for joining us. Thank you for all of our listeners tuning in as well. You can find Brad at developerlife.com. That is DVLPRLIFE.com. And you can interact with them via Twitter, DVLPRLIFE. You can also find me at matalino.io, MATALINO.io. And my Twitter handle is Matalino16. And you can see those links down below in their show notes. Again, thank you, everyone. Thank you, and take care.